I'm from the University of Natural Resources and Life Science, BOKU in Vienna. Yeah, I have a background in land and water management, also in organic farming and systemic consultancy. And as part of EdiCitNet, BOKU is accompanying different cities and city teams with different participants through a strategy development process. So for us, this session is very interesting too. I'm very happy to see also four participating cities here, bringing more insights on this level. So warm welcome to everybody again. I think now everybody's settled, kind of. Yeah, we also have again Joni Glover here. Thanks for your already great work. He's the illustrator of this session. So in the background, he will collect the insights and topics that we are talking about and doing some artwork behind our backs there. And we will check in later with him. So the panelists you see already here also the name. So first of all, speech from Doris Damyanovic. She is Associate Professor for Sustainable Landscape Planning and Gender Planning at the Institute of Landscape Planning at BOKU Vienna too. Her teaching and research focus is on climate and gender responsive landscapes and urban planning. And she's a lot involved in interdisciplinary research settings, knows about the concerns about bringing in different participants and voices to be heard. And currently she is working, she's the lead of an international working group, the Gender and Climate Just Cities and Urban Regions, which is financed by the Academy of Territorial Development in the Leibniz University. She will give a presentation about integrating edible city solutions in urban planning and strategy, Vienna. Afterwards, we will hear from Hilde Herebroden, who is affiliated with the Urban Environment Agency in Oslo Municipality, working currently with EdiCitNet and having a lot of experiences as architect and urban planner of over about 25 years, and being a small gardener and also practitioner herself, talking about sprouting Oslo, room for everyone in the city's green space. I'm looking forward to hear about this, Hilde. And then there's Sören Bord from the Senate Department of Urban Development, Building and Housing of the Federal State of Berlin, jumping in for a colleague who caught COVID, and just a reminder in how fragile times we are here. Thanks for jumping in, Sören. He will be talking about anchoring edible city solutions in the Berlin Neighborhood Management Program. Also very nice insight there. And then we go to Tunisia and have two presentations. One of Dr. Boubacar Houman, nice to meet you here. He calls himself an environmental activist, and I think this is all we need to know. He has a background in soil and environmental science, doctorate degree in agroecopediology, and is a very active member in Carthage, working on the issues of urban gardening, bringing the green into the city, talking today about integrating edible city solutions in Carthage city, challenges and perspectives. Welcome, Boubacar. Then we close our presentations with Dr. Latifa Bousselmi and Dr. Lamia Boussiri, both working for the Center of Water Research and Technologies in Tunisia, but more importantly as a partner of the Sustainable Development Association Research in Action, here in short REACT, as an official partner of the Edible City Network program. And yes, talking on the new communication in the wider Tunis area. So I think we are looking forward to hear about the different contexts. I think it is very interesting to get insights also from different countries, different approaches, how things are done, what worked, what not. And yes, I will be keeping the time so that we have in the end some space for reflections and also a roundtable to hear the participants' voices here. Again, should you have any questions, just let us know in the chat on technical and on the Q&As if it's for the panelists here. I do now see the dolmetsching button. So if you go to the lower bar and you want to follow this session in English, French, or Arabic, please feel free to choose your channel. You can do this also on the go. It will stay open now. Thank you very much. Tech team in the background worked very smoothly. Doris, can I invite you to take over the floor and give us some insights on Vienna?
Thank you for the invitation to be at your conference, and I heard the first session, so it was very interesting to get some insights also in your project. I will talk about integrating eatable city solution in urban planning strategies in Vienna. I'm coming more from the planning processes and the planning procedures. So the objective of my presentation will give an insight what are the main stakeholders when we talk about planning strategies, and who are the important actors when we talk about it, and also to look at the instruments what we have in urban planning for this. And I will also show 3 case studies so it gets more clear or more practical, hopefully. We heard a lot about strategies and who is involved. The city of Vienna, maybe I focus on urban planning project because agriculture is a quite broad subject. So I thought this one is a very established one. So I am looking more on this urban gardening as a part of an eatable city. And as you see on the figure, there are a lot of stakeholders and important people who are integrated in these processes. And one is really the city, the different municipal departments, and also the district councils. We have quite a lot in Vienna, so I just keep it to the municipal organization. Then I think an interesting part is also what we have is kind of city-based organization who are doing for the last, some quite for 30 years, kind of quarter management for the districts, or the local agenda project, or also the residential service, which are also very important to implement this urban gardening or eatable city ideas. And then we have for sure, like all the grassroots initiatives, one maybe you know also is the association Gartenpolilog, who works on urban gardening also for quite a long time. And then there's a quite a new, or I would say also the last 10 years are the developers, especially the one who doing social houses, who getting also a grip on this and are interested in urban gardening and greening the city. And what are the instruments? I think there we have some participants from the city. We have a lot of different planning concepts, which the idea of an eatable city, of a green city is integrated. I'm not really focusing on this, but one, just to keep in mind are the smart city strategy, but also especially the climate issues, which helps to bring in this idea of greening, but also to have food production in cities, or it gets more in the focus. We have it the last years, but it's getting really on the focus and on the agenda. But for my case, I really looked on the really very practical one when you want to implement urban gardening or eatable city. One important thing is still, we heard this in the first session, is money. So I think one instrument what we have in the city is subsidies. So you get some money, or you can apply for money to establish a community garden in public space, or also maybe greening like urban areas like streets. And then another instrument, I think this is a very important one, what we heard also in the first session, is this participatory approaches, talk to each other, bring all the stakeholders together, get the information. I think this is also one of the key aspects, and this is also sometimes financed by the city, but also the people are bringing in a lot of time. I think this was also one of the questions in the first section, is how much time the people can invest, and it depends on really on the everyday life perspective of the different people. So just to get a glimpse, when we talk in urban planning, on one hand we have the different stakeholders, which are very important, but then we have a lot of different instruments. And for the next, I will explain 3 case studies. They are made on different planning scales, as we say. But the city or the developers have quite a big influence on the development of this area. So this is also when we talk about the city strategies, that we have an influence on this and how you can integrate it. And the first, all my further slides are focused on our research project, what we did the last years. So one is the biotope city, and this is one a project which we're researching now the last 6-7 years, which we accompanied in Vienna from the beginning on, from the really master plan or before master plan level, and now it's built, but it took almost 10 years. Why is it also interesting for Eatable City? Because it has a really interesting connection between urban planning, greening, and also using these green areas also maybe not only as green, but also as for eatable areas, which is not that easy in some when you talk to the people in the city. So, but it has also a lot of things behind, like the climate debates, but also soil protection, also the rainwater management. So when you talk about this topic, there are a lot of different perspectives what you can bring in. But to clarify a little bit this biotope city concept, it's really to think about, it's maybe now it's really on the agenda, but 15 years ago, greening wasn't so important for the cities, or not the main topic. Now it is, but still this is the idea, to bring human needs together, to bring green water, but also the people together, and have a kind of a planning model and really thinking about this nexus. I think this is an important thing, really, to get in contact to nature, or nature is a part of the human, and vice versa. So I think this is the philosophy in the back. And it's that's the woman, and she's professor for urban planning, Helga Fassbinder, and on the other side, Harry Glück, who invented this idea and were interested in this. And one is she's an urban planner, and he was an architect. But again, how he got implemented also in the biotope city, and as I mentioned before, what's quite new, or what we have for the last 10 years, when there's new development areas, we have kind of neighborhood management, which supported the beginning to bring the people together, that the people get organized, and that also they help them, especially also to have, especially in public areas or semi-public areas, to have urban gardens or some areas where you can do something. And they have different approaches, like homepages, but also Twitter. So also this new media. So they really use a lot of channels to get to the people and help them. And then after 3-4 years, they should do their own things, but just as an initiative at the beginning. Here, just a picture. It's in German, but here it's very important is the biotope city in Vienna, that they have now a common garden, and I will show some pictures how it looks like. And another thing is that when we talk about green, or also about eatable areas, I think there's still a knowledge gap between what the people know or what they want to do. So this was also a thing that we made some brochures, or that get some information how they can do it, and what's maybe important things what they should look like. And going back to the biotope city idea, you have when when we are coming from planning, we think about different spaces. So there can be very small ones, the private ones, and like you have here in the biotope city, that you have all the balcony and also the watering. So you can do it like small things also in your private spaces, and you get maybe some help from the management, for the quarter management. What can you do? What kind of plants you can use? Or you have maybe some small gardens. Another thing is, and this is, but I would say at the beginning, that you have also vertical food things. Here it wasn't working in this case, but I show another case where they tried to grow wine and things, which is very typical for Vienna, but also to have this vertical farming. So kind of an idea how you can use space in a different way. And the last is very clear. These are these different gardens where you can use, and also maybe also some, what you can see is this tree pits, what you can also use maybe for small gardening and eatable areas. So to sum up this biotope city idea, also this model, which is also implemented in Wienerberg in the 10th district of the city of Vienna, is really to think about green areas, but also to think how you can support people that they get ideas how they can implement it and how they can organize themselves. The next example is also, because I thought this is a very interesting example. It's also in the housing area. This is what you can see also in the picture behind, and it's done by my colleague, Dr. Meyerhofer. She worked on this for the last almost 10 years. It was the first community garden in one of these social housing complex. And for the urban planners, and you can see on the map, this is a very functional area. It's not that dense as other areas in the city of Vienna. It's on the other side of the Danube, but we have a lot of green in between. And what to try to really bring this green back to that you can make gardens, like we have the German expression of Mietergärten, but to bring it back. And this was the first case study, and this was also research. So this is a quite interesting one. And you can see it's one of these 50, 60 kind of architecture. And the initiative was also by association, but also financed by the city to bring these people together and also to do some research and investigation. And what was the idea, or what was the outcome? So now they have around a community garden, around 800 square meters, which they have some common areas, which is for the whole people living there. You can come there, sit there, relax there, but then they have also their private areas and small individual plots that are between 9 and 10 square meters. And I think the interesting thing is especially in this, it's really a social housing project, is that it wasn't so easy, because normally when you look on urban gardening, it's more on this academic level, the people who are in the groups. But this is very interesting, because you find here a lot of, most of them are Austrian citizenship, but with an immigrant background. We have all the different languages, and at the beginning it was a really struggle to bring everybody together, but now it's kind of really stabilized after 10 years, and they have their own organization. A lot of women part of this organization, but also men, and they really get out really vegetable and fruits, and it's a part of the income of the people living there. So it's not only a social thing, it's also important for them in the summertime to have vegetables like salad and other things, or different kind of spices, which we are not maybe so familiar in some parts. So this is, I think, a very good example. Also maybe to have eatable areas in old or in older parts of the city and bring the people together. So this is kind of the public space. It's kind of I would say a semi-private space. And I hope I have another 3 minutes. Is that fine? Okay. The last example is to bring, I have brought some examples from Biotope City, but also some this community garden in this in the 50-60 areas. That's also an important project we have been part. It's called Edible City. It's called Edible Seestadt. That's one of our big urban development areas, or the biggest one in Vienna. And I think it's almost the biggest one in Europe, they will say, but I'm not sure about this. But there are a lot of people or a lot of research is going on. And this one is also one of the research to really also to make not only a parcel or a plot, but also the whole quarter as kind of an eatable area. And to bring this together, I show you a map that they have really been quite successful with this project, and this project is also going on with kind of an association. And I hopefully you see the different colors what we have here. So there are a lot of things are going on. So to bring together what are the different kind of urban ideas, maybe what you can do in a quite dense area. On one hand, we have the community gardens, and they have 2 or 3 big community gardens with different association. And then they have made a path, and I will show this later on, where you can learn about Edible City, what you can do, what's important. Then they have also signed up maybe some edible plants, which you find in public spaces, or maybe there are some trees where you can really use like apples or something like this, or wild fruits. And there are also some private planting, which are important, or you can look at it, it's on a private plot, but it's accessible. And to make it clear, and the only pity of it, you've just find it in German, but there are a lot of pictures on the homepage, so maybe you can go in there. They have made this special path, as I explained it, so you can really go there, and they have the signs, and you can look at it, and you can stay there. And I just give you some insights how it looks like. One is like action to compose together. That's also in public space, to bring your things together. Another pilot action was really to have like kind of waiting areas where you can also maybe use the fruits, or maybe have some berries or something like this. And another one is like they made a kind of a snacking hedge, what also is used by the public and not just by individual. And this is one which they are very happy, is that one big question is how to water all the things in this area. So they have invented a bicycle to water trees, which is also kind of a funny thing with kids, and bring this together to learn about Edible City, and also to be integrated in this. And this was my last slide, and thank you for your attention, and give you some insights to what kind of strategies the city of Vienna or the inhabitants have there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doris, so much. This was a very good presentation of 2 of the pioneer.
Thank you for the invitation to talk about the strategy of Oslo. And as Max said, I'm Hilde Herbrøden, and I'm working as an advisor in urban farming at the Urban Environment Agency in the Municipality of Oslo. And I'm also a city coordinating of the Oslo Living Lab in EdiCitNet at Linderud. I'm just taking over from Stephanie Degenhardt, who is on maternity leave at the moment. So I'm learning my way in EdiCitNet as well. And I'm going to present the strategy for urban agriculture and how it was initiated, and the goals and achievements in the work to implement it in our experience so far working with the strategy. Yeah, and the title says a lot about what the municipality wants with the strategy, to give room to everyone in the green spaces. It was adopted by the City Council in November 2019, And as for many cities, there was a growing awareness for urban farming in the city development in early 2000. And urban farming became on the political agenda around 2010. The focus then was mainly preservation of allotment gardens and school gardens because they were threatened by the expansion of the city. At the same time, new networks between initiatives was established, and Oslo's biggest urban development area, Bjørvika, implemented a community garden. It became very popular and gave new perspectives to the impact of urban agriculture in the city development. After a few drafts and political shifts, the strategy became a political order to the Urban Environment Agency in 2017. The implementation of the strategy is organized by the Urban Environment Agency, as said, and we are at the moment 3 persons working with different aspects of the implementation. Our main objective is to coordinate, measure the impact of projects, guide the public and initiatives through bureaucracy, and communicate through social media and website. Except facilitating the living lab and and ownership to a community garden and 3 city farms, the agency is not directly involved in projects and initiatives. To have established understanding of urban agriculture in a big organization such as Oslo Municipality, we focus a lot on involving different agencies, working with urban planning, property management, water management, social infrastructure, and so on. Action plans and tasks are established in cooperation with relevant and respective agencies to reach the goals in the strategy. The strategy has 5 main goals, and I will in the following slides talk more about them and the work achieved so far. Urban agriculture shall contribute to Oslo becoming a green city by transforming brownfield areas and make a diversity of green spaces containing different natural, recreational, and agricultural qualities. Tasks to reach this goal is, for example, establishing flower meadows. In the picture in the background, you can see a meadow by the new waterfront with view to the new opera house and Munch Museum. And mapping existing activities was done in 2021, and it gives us data to secure activities in urban action plans and municipality plan. To find new areas in the green infrastructure is an ongoing process, and the plan is to implement them as well as existing and former farmland in the new review of the municipality plan with regulations that allows and secure fruit production. Also, municipality are developing digital tools to give the public access to and information about what we are working on now, are a platform that hopefully will give the initiatives better overview and access to areas sustainable for urban agriculture. The city has set an overall goal to plant 100,000 trees. That's not an exact amount, but a vision by 2030, and many of them will be edible trees. This will hopefully make the city edible for everyone. Reducing use of tap water to green infrastructure is becoming a priority issue even in Oslo, and we have a pilot going on using water from the roof to a school project. These days we have received a report on how urban farming affects environmental and climatic issues from NIBIO, Norwegian Institute of Bioeconomy Research, and this knowledge will hopefully be used by the initiatives in their maintenance of their production agencies to see demands if necessary and help developers to reach sustainable goals by using urban agriculture. Goal number 2 is a local food production. The municipality wants to increase the knowledge about food production at many levels, and we facilitate courses in market gardens, community. Urban farming is depending on land or space by nature, so identifying and give access to larger sustainable areas is a focus at the moment. But it is challenging to find such due to limited access to area, especially within the building zone. We are often contacted by people who want to make urban farming as a full-time occupation, and the will to upscale local food production seems to be there. We support entrepreneurs through our subsidy regime, information about mentoring programs and networks they can join in a national level. Producing food in a city environment have other preconditions compared to traditional farming, and we try to use our role to build down abstractions within the municipality or at a national level regarding planning regulations, fundings, and so on. Meetings places in a sprouting city. The picture in the background shows Lusete, who was initiated by the developers in the new Wonderland Björvika as an art project into a successful example of how urban agriculture activity can transform an area and become a major attraction by creating spaces for meeting through food production. Due to its impact, it was decided to make it not just a temporary activity, but a permanent community garden in 2015, and it's now run by the municipality. The municipality wants to use urban agriculture in social infrastructure institutions, such as elderly kindergartens and others. So they can use urban agriculture as part of their own portfolio as a daily activity. And we guide the ones who want to be a pilot. We have some money for that. Urban agriculture contributes to public health, is awakening, and municipality has ambition to make the green spaces more multifunctional and make urban agriculture a natural part of the green infrastructure. That takes us to goal number 4, green educational areas. The municipality has set a goal that every school shall have access to a municipality school garden or other areas that can either be on their own schoolyard, at a community garden, or a market garden, or a community supported agriculture, or a visiting farm within and around the city. 3 of the farms are run by the Urban Environment Agency, as I said before, and some others are run by the city, district, and private or public institutions. Many organizations have focused on education for children in this issue and have developed very good educational materials, and we see our role to spread the information through social media and our website. The city of Oslo wants to stimulate agriculture activity in the city by supporting and enabling a greater range of actors that can practice urban agriculture also as a full-time occupation. We have had a subsidy regime since 2017, and at the total amount of 200,000 euros a year. It's given to about 100 initiatives who fulfill the criteria. This supports private and public initiatives and entrepreneurs to start and invest in their projects. We see it as an important role to spread information to the public about initiatives, experiences, events, and so forth in our channels. We have, as I said, a website and a Facebook, Instagram account that we weekly update on activities and news about food production. And hopefully we'll also have a public platform, as I said earlier, in a year or two that will give the initiative the possibility to tell more about their own activities and the public a good overview of what happens in Oslo at the field. Many of the city districts are facilitating summer jobs for young people and make a great tribute to support urban agriculture activities in park, community gardens, and planting and maintaining the 100,000 trees to come by 2030. Two of the city districts also have sort of city farmers who have a full-time job to support activities in their own city farm. Yes, this was a short introduction to what we are doing, and we are still have some years left to achieve our goals. But I can shortly talk about what's been our challenges, where we're going to focus on ahead. We just worked with this strategy for 2 years, and we have identified some general experiences. And maybe the major one is overcoming bureaucracy within the municipality and also at the national level, and find good routines within the municipality has been and will be an important abstraction to overcome, to make urban agriculture as a natural part of the green infrastructure. Funding in the city budget has unfortunately not been a priority the last years. And that has given us a limited possibility to reach our goals. And also to initiate pilots as showcase and connect knowledge about the impact of urban agriculture. It also makes it less tempting for the agency we cooperate with to start projects when we have little to offer. But that said, we have a lot of positive feedback from our partners, and we are involved and have a lot going on without much funding. An overall challenge for many initiatives and entrepreneurs is to be financially sustainable and run their activity on a long term. Norway is a high-cost country, both due to expensive labor, rent costs, and also a lack of areas. So it's not easy to make it a full-time job to be a local producer. But lessons learned so far is we see a positive effect of having a strategy. It gives us legitimacy to involve a relevant agency in the implementation of urban agriculture. It is a ticket to cooperate to find solutions and activities that can or shall consider in their own portfolio. And we see a growing awareness of how urban farming is relevant in a complex city. But it takes time to grow awareness, and it takes time to implement across agency and organizations. But we are definitely seeing a positive trend, and we are patient. We have a long list of targets we have identified, and we still have 7 years left in the period of the strategy. And I can point out 2 which we hope to focus on for the next years. We hope to have the ability to develop this digital platform, as I mentioned earlier, as a main tool for communication with the initiatives in a year or 2. This will give easier access to information about the initiatives and give the municipality and maybe research partners access to data on the ongoing urban farming. Upscaling of the food production within the city is an important target and challenging one. We have a growing interest and hope to support the initiatives. I have a link to the strategy, and it's in an English version here in my presentation. So just take a look at it if you want to. And if you have questions, you can just email me by this email here. And thank you so very much for the attention.
Thank you very much, Hilde, about this presentation. That was really impressive to see your goals and already achievements. This is really nice to see, but also to see the challenges you face. I think this is, as we say in German, music in our more activists' ears when you say reducing bureaucracy is one of the goals, and this coming from a municipality. I think this gives some nice insights also on the mechanisms and the process on that level. With this, I would straightforward go to Sören Bott from the Senate in Berlin, talking about the neighborhood management program and what role ECS play in there.
Thank you very much so far, and I want to give warm greetings from my colleagues, Inken Schmutz and Tina Hilbert, which you probably know better than me, because I work in this program longer than me, so to say. And I have the honor, because of the illness of Tina, to present to you the files or the slides of Tina. Deals how we integrate the ECS into our program, the neighborhood management program in Berlin. So next slide, please. Okay. Thank you. The next slide will inform you of our program, social cohesion, and then I will turn over to the ECS integration of the ECS into our program. So the social cohesion, as it's called now, is one of 3 urban funding programs in Germany, which deals with the 3 governmental levels in Germany, which means the federal government, the Länder, and also the communities or cities. And to give you an idea, I will spread out the budget in 2020. It's about 700 million euro in this year, and for us in Berlin, the sum is about 32 million euro, so about 4 to 5% of this budget, national budget. The next slide, please. So we started with our neighborhood program in Berlin in 1999. So we have an experience of over 20 years. The next slide, please. The reason why we started was that after the unification or reunification of Germany and also of our city, we have highly segregated areas, areas with really poor social conditions in terms of unemployment, poverty, children poverty, and immigration and low education. Therefore, we have to do something and started this program. Next slide, please. At the same time, we started a monitoring system with these indicators, poverty, children poverty, and so on, which I mentioned the slides before. And you can see here in different colors the areas and the pink, orange, and also the other red areas are the poor areas where we started with our program. Next slide, please. The areas of our program, 32 Quartiers management or neighborhood management areas in the cities nowadays, because they are temporary. It's changed over a period of 20 years, of course, but now we started 9 new ones, and in total we have 32 areas now. The next slide, please. Here are some figures. 37,500 inhabitants live in these 32 neighborhood areas. And here you can find also the 32 million euro a year in 2020. And over the period of the last 20 years, we spent about $500 million in this area. Next slide, please. So we have our philosophy of this program is mostly it's a local focus. So we work spatially. We focus on the area. I already told you that it's temporary. So now we have a period of 15 years. So we start now, and in 15 years, we end this program in this area. And it's integrated approach or interdepartmental. Means not only urban development where I work in this department, but also education or the job agency and so on. All these different departments work together to foster this area development. And the last but not least philosophy point is the participation. We work together with inhabitants, of course, but also with the local actors inside the area. The next slide, please. So here you can find the objective of our program. It's more or less to renovate the social infrastructure. That means the schools, the kindergarten, also the different meeting points in the areas, the neighborhoods, and to improve the living conditions of the poor people living in these areas, mainly for the education, and to qualify also the public space. It's in the inner city with high density of people. So we have few public spaces and a lack of private space, of course. So we try to qualify the few public spaces. And the last point is the climate protection, which becomes more and more important in our program. The next slide, please. So now it's the second part of the presentation, the question how to integrate the ECS inside our program. And the key question is, how can we strengthen the disadvantaged neighborhoods with the ECS? Therefore, this is a guideline to build up the master plan. To give answer to this key question. The next slide, please. So we structured the master plan in a few capitals: introduction, of course, and the second chapter will deal with the ECS on the one hand and the social challenges in these areas on the other hand. And the third one is the solution, how to implement the ECS and what are the main factors to improve the ECS. And the tangible outputs will be a collection of the information for the actors and to give good practice examples. The next slide, please. So this is the master plan within the ECS. And on the other hand, we have the EHACs, it's called the concept inside the program. And you have here also integrated action development program. Please, the next slide. Every second year, the neighborhood teams have to write down these concepts, which are a basis for the funding and also for all the actions they do. Okay, next slide, please. And here are the pillars or action fields of our program. It ranges from the neighborhoods and education, public space, health and activities, and also the question of networks. And here you see how good our program fits together with the ECS questions. Next slide, please. Okay, at the end of our work, we will publish, of course, the master plan of our homepage. That's the one thing to do. And the other main method will be to make workshops with the neighborhood teams and also maybe for the local actors who will produce the ECS inside the area. The next slide, please. This is already the end of this presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Sören. I think this is very interesting also from how the objectives of such a huge and well-funded neighborhood management program can be incorporated in different initiatives as ECS. So this gave a very good insight on the complexity also, but also on the integration there. I think we will have more time in the roundtable discussion to dive a bit deeper, as I think this is also already something mentioned in the Q&As, how these long-term goals influence the actual daily strategies. Then our fourth presentation today will be from Tunisia. We're shifting countries and continent to a very historical, important place for urban agriculture. Dr. Bouba-Rouman, I would invite you to take the floor for
Oui, Max, bonjour.
Bonjour. For all those partners, participants who have not had the chance to switch the language now and are not able to speak French or understand French, please do so on the lower bar of the Zoom window. There is a pictogram of a globe, and you can select the channel you would like to listen in. So for everybody who's not speaking French, would be the chance now to switch to English, as the presentation will be in French. And there was the floor is.
En français. Merci, Max. Chers collègues et amis, ma communication, comme vous pouvez le voir sur ce premier slide, porte sur les défis et les perspectives d'intégration des Edible City Solutions au sein de la ville de Carthage. Carthage pour les Phéniciens, fondateurs de la ville au IXe siècle avant Jésus-Christ, Carthago pour les Romains qui l'ont détruite puis reconstruite au début de l'ère chrétienne, lieu exceptionnel d'éclosion, de brassage, de diffusion de plusieurs cultures qui se sont succédées, phénico-puniques, romaines, paléo-chrétiennes et arabes. Carthage est aujourd'hui une ville sereine située dans la banlieue nord du Tunis, dont le site archéologique figure sur la liste du patrimoine culturel mondial depuis 1979 et bénéficie en Tunisie d'une protection fortement encadrée par la loi. Slide, s'il vous plaît. Le premier rapport du comité du patrimoine, le dernier rapport du comité du patrimoine mondial de l'UNESCO, datant de juillet 2021, interpelle les autorités tunisiennes sur la nécessité d'assurer une gestion inclusive du site archéologique à travers l'adoption du plan de protection et de mise en valeur et surtout son intégration avec le plan de développement local, tout en prenant en considération la participation des parties prenantes et la situation économique, socio-économique des populations vulnérables habitant autour du site. Le premier défi est donc clair. Tout serait envisageable si l'intégrité archéologique du site est préservée. Slide, s'il vous plaît. Slide, s'il vous plaît. En termes de planification urbaine, une lecture attentive du plan d'aménagement urbain en cours de révision fait ressortir trois constatations. D'abord, la grande étendue des espaces classés comme zones archéologiques non constructibles, qui couvrent environ 60% de la surface totale du territoire et sont représentés en jaune sur la carte. L'occupation de tout le territoire, que je qualifie de territoire de littoral confisqué par les institutions publiques, allant du palais présidentiel aux institutions de formation et de recherche, sans oublier les constructions privées et les sites archéologiques tels que les thermes d'Antonin en nord et les ports uniques au sud. La troisième constatation concerne le grand déséquilibre dans les secteurs urbanisés, à l'ouest et au sud. Regardez à gauche et en bas de la carte, se concentre un habitat collectif et très dense. À l'ouest et au nord, par contre, à droite, on retrouve un habitat étalé et souvent individuel et peu dense. Le deuxième grand défi est par conséquent lié à l'obtention d'un plan d'aménagement urbain durable. Le troisième grand défi est lui en rapport avec la politique, et j'insiste là, et la gouvernance du site archéologique, ce qui cause beaucoup de retard. Internationalement, et comme nous l'avons souligné auparavant, la gestion du site archéologique est subordonnée aux décisions du Comité du patrimoine mondial de l'UNESCO. Cette pensée globale et globalisante du patrimoine mondial est qualifiée par Laura Jeanne Smith comme le discours patrimonial autorisé en raison de sa nature hégémonique, omniprésente dans l'orientation, voire la détermination des politiques et des pratiques nationales liées à la gestion du patrimoine. En effet, les décisions, les recommandations, les résolutions de l'UNESCO et de ses organismes consultatifs comme l'ICOMOS et l'ICROM utilisent toutes le même code, le même logiciel linguistique, établissant ainsi un corps de discours autoréférentiel faisant autorité sur la gestion du patrimoine mondial. Les gestionnaires du patrimoine des États parties, comme la Tunisie, sont ainsi soumis à la doctrine de l'UNESCO et des pratiques de conservation qui la sous-tendent. Libérer les savoirs et adapter les pratiques de protection du patrimoine au contexte local semble difficile dans ce contexte, notamment lorsque le prêt-à-penser l'emporte sur la volonté de s'affranchir intellectuellement et de changer de paradigme. À l'échelle nationale, deuxième paragraphe à gauche, les normes transcrites des conventions, des chartes et des recommandations, des résolutions de l'UNESCO sont encore plus rigides à l'échelle du territoire et surtout non évolutives. Elles se manifestent sur le terrain, si vous êtes là, par l'installation de barrières et de clôtures qui isolent le patrimoine mondial et son environnement et excluent la population riveraine. Cette rupture culturelle, regardez à droite, cache en fait des causes plus profondes liées à la mauvaise gouvernance, l'absence de politique, de cohérence dans les politiques culturelles et dans un second lieu, le manque de ressources à la fois financières et humaines, tous en rapport avec l'absence d'une culture, l'absence d'une démocratie culturelle. Au niveau des sites, enfin, en bas et à gauche, on enregistre une dégradation des monuments accompagnée d'une chute de la valeur esthétique et des pertes économiques qui font que certains d'entre eux risquent de balancer dans la liste du patrimoine mondial en péril si l'on se réfère encore et encore une fois au principe de l'UNESCO. L'absence d'une vision partagée et l'abandon des savoir-faire locaux ne feront que perdurer une telle situation. Il est nécessaire, mes chers amis, que les paradigmes changent pour que les politiques et les stratégies évoluent à la fois au niveau international et national dans la conservation du patrimoine. Le quatrième défi est de nature environnementale. En effet, comme la plupart des villes qui ouvrent sur la Méditerranée considérée par l'IPCC comme un hotspot du changement climatique, font que Carthage et son patrimoine culturel sont menacés par l'élévation du niveau de la mer et par les phénomènes de submersion. Vous voyez très bien les prévisions en 2100 de l'élévation du niveau de la mer, des phénomènes de submersion. C'est issu d'un article récent. Le cinquième grand défi, et non des moindres, concerne l'équité sociale. Comme vous pouvez le constater sur le schéma de droite, deux grands tracés routiers symbolisés en rouge divisent physiquement le territoire communal en 4 secteurs que nous pouvons agréger en 2 grandes zones. Une zone située au nord et à l'est avec des villas cossues et des familles bien nanties. Une zone située à l'ouest et au sud de la commune composée de quartiers populaires et de populations défavorisées, les cités Mohamed Ali et Yasmine. Si le plan dans cette zone donc défavorisée, si le plan de gestion du site archéologique de Carthage ne prévoit pas d'exploiter les avantages réciproques pour la société et le patrimoine, ce dernier, c'est-à-dire le patrimoine, se trouvera lui-même victime plus que catalyseur du changement souhaité. En résumé, l'interconnexion des 5 grands défis schématisés dans cette représentation de la divinité carthaginoise Tanit fait dire à certains auteurs spécialistes de la planification urbaine que le plan d'aménagement urbain de Carthage est introuvable. Pourtant, il est là. Une expression qui traduit bien l'embarras des urbanistes traditionnels face à cette situation complexe et compliquée du système urbain de Carthage. En d'autres termes, l'approche qu'ils abordent en silo et sectoriel jusqu'à-là en vigueur n'est pas fructueuse pour résoudre les problèmes de la ville. Seule, donc, une analyse systémique, holistique, qui prend en considération les interconnexions et les interactions et rétroactions des différentes composantes urbaines est en mesure de nous fournir une base solide pour un futur master plan souhaité. C'est pour cette raison que nous sommes orientés vers l'adoption de Transitional Pathway Methodology promue dans le WP4 du programme EdiCitNet. Comme vous pouvez le constater, nous avons suivi 3 étapes: le système de développement, le développement du système, le développement du scénario et le développement du transfert. Au courant de la première étape, nous avons travaillé étroitement avec nos amis de React, c'est-à-dire notre partenaire local, pour identifier, bien entendu, les défis sociaux et tout ce qui caractérise la ville en termes de contexte institutionnel, légal, etc. Et surtout en termes d'edible city existants. En même temps, et pendant que nous travaillons pour faire l'identification des sociétal challenges, l'avènement de la pandémie Covid-19 a révélé qu'en plus de la non-durabilité de sa planification, Carthage s'est avérée peu résiliente au choc, notamment en ce qui concerne son système alimentaire. À partir de là, et sans dévier de la voie principale du TPM, nous avons concentré notre travail sur le système alimentaire afin de mieux comprendre le contexte local, assurer l'adhésion des différentes parties prenantes et surtout réussir l'intégration des Edible City Solutions comme une composante de l'aménagement urbain. Et c'est à ce moment-là qu'entre en jeu l'Université de Brighton avec tout son savoir scientifique, technique et technologique pour appuyer notre City Team et rendre plus visible le travail que nous réalisons avec React depuis plus de 2 ans. Grâce au travail continu que nous réalisons en présentiel et à distance via le Miro et les échanges d'informations et de connaissances, nous avons collaboré une série de documents cartographiques qui constituent l'ossature de notre bouclette de plaidoyer pour la phase 2 et 3. Pour l'instant, comme l'exprime si bien notre partenaire Catherine Bond de l'Université de Brighton, nous sommes à un moment, c'est dans son dernier message, je lis ça, nous sommes à un moment crucial de notre pensée collective et de notre travail collaboratif, car nous passons de ce qui existe à ce que nous voudrions dans le futur. Le premier produit de notre travail collectif et collaboratif de cette cartographie urbaine participative est la 8e version que vous voyez de la carte alimentaire de Carthage, qui montre clairement, bien que ce ne soit pas très net, que des potentialités réelles existent pour l'implémentation des Edible City Solutions à Carthage. Les terrains classés comme zones archéologiques comprennent en fait de vastes champs de blé et d'orge. D'autres sites situés au sein des établissements d'enseignement primaire, secondaire et universitaire offrent également des espaces ouverts pour la création de jardins potagers, sans oublier les parcs urbains de la ville qui peuvent abriter à leur tour toutes des plantations d'arbres fruitiers qui évoqueraient bien entendu l'histoire agricole de Carthage et celle surtout du père de l'agriculture, Magon, le Carthaginois. Parallèlement au travail cartographique, une série de 9 thèmes ont été parallèlement, vous avez vu le décart, une série de 9 thèmes ont été distillés de notre dernière rencontre avec les experts et les expertes du projet EdiCitNet que nous remercions d'abord. Considérés comme des éléments d'une vision partagée, ces 9 thèmes seront déclinés donc en une carte d'opportunité qui visualise et valorise chacun de ces systèmes. En même temps, des fiches dont vous observez un modèle seront élaborées et intégreront l'intitulé du thème en haut et à gauche, suivi par tout ce que vous voulez, une photo, un croquis, une carte, bref, tout ce qui traduit au mieux l'objectif visé. Enfin, une expression en bas à gauche assez succincte de notre vision, avec à droite en plus les interactions entre les societal challenges, les open space et les edible city solutions, tout en prenant en considération le système alimentaire de Carthage. Une fois élaborées, ces fiches seront discutées et finalisées et confrontées aux documents d'orientation stratégique existants dans la ville et serviraient comme base pour l'élaboration de scénarios du futur commun que nous voulons. Permettez-moi enfin de préciser que le City Team a mis en lumière une initiative personnelle, individuelle, qui recevra demain un des prix d'EdiCitNet, M. Issam Benchaben, que je respecte beaucoup. Le City Team a également été à l'origine de l'adhésion de la ville de Carthage en Milan Urban Policy Pact, dont les objectifs convergent avec ceux du projet EdiCitNet. Juste pour cette dernière diapo, pour rappeler que notre adhésion au Milan Pact a été fortement appuyée par le staff de coordination du projet. Voilà, chers collègues et partenaires du travail, le travail que nous sommes en train de réaliser, le travail qui a élargi le champ de nos perspectives et le spectre de nos horizons. En conclusion, je dirais qu'il existe aujourd'hui un consensus scientifique, technique et social sur le fait que les postures et attitudes conservationnistes et coercitives amènent vers l'impasse et n'apportent donc aucune solution aux problèmes liés à la planification de notre ville Carthage. Seul un changement de paradigme dans les politiques et les stratégies de protection du site archéologique et un changement de paradigme de la planification en général dans l'ensemble de la ville est apte à assurer la transition du système urbain de Carthage vers une ville comestible, résiliente et durable. Sur un plan, enfin, plus opérationnel, l'intégration du TPM, du Work Package 4 et le Food Mapping rendrait plus audible notre voix et démontrerait que considérer Carthage comme une ville édible est une perspective crédible et que sa réalisation s'inscrit dans le champ du possible. Merci.
Thank you very much, Buba, for this very rich presentation of the background of Carthage and even giving on this perspectives part insights on the work we are doing here together in the EdiCitNet project. So that's very nice to see and also get an idea on what is going on and also seeing progress and where you are, and that this is basically you're in the middle of doing and developing strategies. So this is not something that happens apart from this forum here or this session. So thank you very much, Buba. With this, we would like to take a wider look now at the scope of Tunis, because Tunis is not only Carthage, and I would like to hand over the floor to Dr. Latifa Bousselmi and Dr. Lamia Boussiri to take over the floor, and it's already starting on the new components of urban agriculture in the Grand Tunis, the Greater Tunis.
So I will present the Grand Tunis. It is, alors, excusez-moi, mais je vais présenter en français. Donc, je vais présenter Grand Tunis, métropole émergente. Et c'est la capitale politique et économique. Elle est composée de 4 gouvernorats et 38 municipalités. Et bien sûr, elle intègre aussi Carthage, Follower City du projet EdiCitNet. Je vais parler un peu des différents défis. Donc, vu que elle est divisée en 38 municipalités, il y a une multitude d'acteurs locaux et aussi au niveau régional et national, ce qui met qu'il n'y a pas une vision claire, et ce qui concerne aussi et surtout tout ce qui est gestion urbaine. Ceci a entraîné donc une facilité d'expansion urbaine aux dépens de l'espace agricole et une dégradation de l'environnement, du design urbain, de la qualité de la vie et aujourd'hui une faible résilience vis-à-vis du changement climatique. Comme vous voyez, depuis l'indépendance, la courbe est une courbe exponentielle. Et cette urbanisation très croissante, elle vraiment affecte aussi les ressources naturelles, vu surtout que nous sommes ici en zone aride. Et elle affecte aussi le système d'alimentation, la qualité aussi de l'alimentation, et elle impactera sûrement sur le développement de ce nouveau métropole qu'on voudrait smart, durable, etc. Donc, j'ai présenté ici quelques données sur le système d'alimentation. L'espace agricole dans le Grand Tunis, il produit essentiellement des céréales et du forage, mais aussi il est aussi composé de beaucoup donc, de zones fruitières, de zones agricoles fruitières, et aussi de zones maraîchères. Je ne l'ai pas présenté ici, mais ces zones-là sont vraiment parsemées dans le Grand Tunis et avec une partie périurbaine, surtout pour l'activité céréale. Ce qui est important aussi de souligner, c'est que 20% des agricultures agroalimentaires en Tunisie est située dans le Grand Tunis et que si on regarde les industries du Grand Tunis, 30% sont des industries agroalimentaires. Il existe bien sûr un système de distribution et de consommation qui est très développé et qui vraiment part du traditionnel jusqu'au vraiment très moderne, donc des marchés locaux jusqu'au marché très très développé comme on existe un peu partout. Ce que nous avons remarqué surtout qu'il y a une très très faible optimisation des ressources ou du recyclage de ces ressources et on tend maintenant de plus en plus vers une agriculture intensive qui présente vraiment une menace vers la préservation du système écologique et aussi pour la qualité donc, de l'alimentation. Aujourd'hui, ce système alimentaire, il est composé de petites entreprises et ces petites entreprises agricoles, ce sont surtout des entreprises familiales qui se trouvent aujourd'hui emprisonnées dans le contexte urbain. Ils sont caractérisés par une difficulté de résister à l'attrait du coût du terrain pour une urbanisation de plus en plus intense. Les jeunes aussi sont de moins en moins attirés dans ces régions-là vers cette activité agricole à la suite ou sous l'attrait donc de l'emploi proposé par les industries. Et aussi, c'est entraîné un faible revenu et donc il s'agit donc de plus en plus d'activités agricoles au niveau urbain qui est très, très précaire. Au niveau périurbain, on trouve de plus en plus des moyennes et importantes activités exploitation agricole. Et ces exploitations agricoles profitent beaucoup de l'augmentation de la demande de l'alimentation, enfin tout ce qui est food, tout ce qui est maraîcher, production maraîchère, et donc qui a augmenté suite au développement du Grand Tunis, et ce qui a entraîné donc c'est que ces exploitations sont devenues de plus en plus professionnelles et même les jeunes sont attirés par ce type de gestion. Aussi, ce qui est très, très intéressant à souligner pour les grandes entreprises essentiellement, c'est qu'ils sont en lien direct avec les industries agroalimentaires, ce qui, bien sûr, diminue la compétitivité et la pression d'être compétitive, mais ça entraîne aussi une dépendance totale, parfois, de ces industries agroalimentaires. Ceci aussi pose un grand problème, puisque ce sont les industries agroalimentaires qui sont la locomotive donc, de ce développement agricole au niveau du Grand Tunis. Donc, les risques, les défis sont essentiellement la précarité donc des petites fermes agricoles qui se trouvent en milieu urbain et surtout cette dépendance des grandes et moyennes entreprises de ce système industriel. Il s'ensuit une nécessité de protéger l'agriculture à travers un plan d'aménagement bien réfléchi qui intégrerait une stratégie de développement clair au niveau milieu urbain et périurbain. C'est dans ce contexte que nous avons commencé le projet EdiCitNet. Donc, nous sommes deux partenaires, REACT, qui est une association de développement durable, et la municipalité de Carthage, donc une ville connue au niveau mondial et que Boubacar vient de très bien présenter. Donc, les premières questions qu'on s'est posées ensemble, en fait, est-ce que le concept d'une ville comestible est en harmonie avec le contexte socio-culturel de la Tunisie, de l'utilisation de l'espace actuel et aussi de notre histoire et pratiques agricoles? Et est-ce que ce que nous venons de citer comme challenges peuvent être réellement prises en charge par ce concept de ville comestible? Et nous avons commencé, pour essayer de répondre à cette question, par une première étape, c'est de voir s'il existe aujourd'hui des composants donc, de ce concept de ville comestible, donc les ECS, et est-ce qu'il y a des initiatives pour une ville comestible et quelles sont les catégories qui existent. Donc, si la réponse est oui, le challenge serait de transférer ce qui existe au niveau component dans un procédé dynamique qui nous conduirait vers l'objectif donc tunisien au niveau du projet d'une ville Carthage comestible. Aussi, le challenge, ce que nous voudrions faire, c'est amarrer en quelque sorte donc, ce concept de ville comestible aux différentes stratégies qui existent et aux différentes initiatives, que ce soit au niveau national ou au niveau international. Donc, ici, rapidement, je vais présenter les objectifs et les méthodologies, mais je vais le présenter plus au niveau de ce diagramme. Donc, l'approche que nous avons choisie, c'est en premier lieu, donc d'identifier les différentes ICS, comme je l'ai dit, à partir de là, de créer une interface de communication et un inventaire de classification. Sur ceci, nous nous sommes basés pour créer, donc c'est le point 4 sur le graphique, de créer un réseau de villes comestibles durables, donc pour intégrer plus large l'aspect interface avec l'aspect donc système alimentaire. Et le réseau a été animé à travers des différents ateliers de réseautage, mais aussi des visites techniques qui nous ont permis de faire des échanges et donc de transfert de savoir. Alors, le point 5, donc l'objectif recherché, c'est une extraction de savoir qui a été possible grâce à l'intégration au niveau de ces réseaux de villes comestibles des experts de différentes spécialités. Ce savoir-là a été aussi transféré au City Team de Carthage par l'intermédiaire des membres de City Team eux-mêmes qui font partie du réseau de villes comestibles, mais aussi en intégrant des porteurs de projets ECS au niveau du City Team de Carthage. Ensuite, le City Team en lui-même a mis en place un appel, donc on appelle EdiCitNet Carthage, pour identifier et pousser vers l'implémentation de ECS de démonstration, des sites pilotes, si on veut, au niveau de Carthage elle-même. Le City Team lui-même, donc avec tout ce savoir, avec tous ces acteurs, que ce soit un expert, que ce soit des porteurs de ECS, porte le processus de changement vers Carthage ville comestible qui est en cours et qui est dans le cadre du projet EdiCitNet, dans le cadre du projet WorkPax4. Et donc, à partir de là, je vais donner la parole à ma collègue, Madame Lamia Bouziri, qui va présenter la suite.
Merci. Donc, grâce à la méthodologie décrite par Latifa, cette méthodologie nous a permis de dessiner le paysage des ECS du Grand Tunis. Donc, le cœur de ce paysage, il est formé par les potagers urbains, privés, collectifs et communautaires, gravitent autour donc, des startups innovantes par leurs produits, par les produits qu'elles fournissent ou par les services qu'elles fournissent. Donc, soit par la production de produits nobles, de légumes nobles, des micro-pousses de plantes, soit par l'offre de services de conception de potagers sur les toits d'immeubles, d'installation de dispositifs de culture hors sol, hydroponique ou aquaponique. Il y a aussi des sociétés qui fournissent des petits matériels adaptés aux petites surfaces pour l'agriculture urbaine. Donc, il y a des entités qui assurent donc, la distribution des produits des ECS, e-commerce et des plateformes de vente en ligne, des organismes qui, grâce au projet qu'ils conduisent, donc, œuvrent pour la gestion locale de l'eau et la valorisation des eaux grises et aussi la sauvegarde de la biodiversité. Des associations et sociétés civiles assurant la dissémination, la visibilité et la vulgarisation des activités des ECS comme EnviroFest et l'ATP, donc l'Association tunisienne de permaculture. Next slide. Donc, grâce à ce travail donc, de réseautage et de répertoriage, d'identification des ECS, donc, on a pu donc classer ces ECS en 3 grandes classes. La première classe, c'est une classe de potagers, les potagers urbains. La deuxième classe, c'est les entreprises basées sur la nature, basées donc, et les startups et les NGO. La troisième classe, c'est le système de distribution. Donc, essentiellement, c'est un nouveau système de distribution innovant en ligne. La prochaine, peut-être. Je vais dans la suite vous présenter quelques exemples pour chaque classe. Donc, pour la première classe donc, des potagers urbains, nous avons donc choisi 4 initiatives. Le premier jardin donc, à Damyanovic, qui est un potager privé de 2000 m², qui assure l'autosuffisance de 4 familles, qui interagit avec le voisinage pour les aider à intégrer les composantes, les principes d'agriculture urbaine, donc tri, compostage et sensibilisation aussi à l'agriculture urbaine. Deuxième initiative, c'est une initiative de jardin communautaire de Mifeiza. Ah bon? Donc, c'est un jardin communautaire qui se réunit, donc, dont les participants se réunissent. Il ne me reste pas beaucoup de temps, donc, apparemment. Donc, voilà, donc je ne vais pas. Il reste 2 autres initiatives, jardin nourricier au cœur de la Médina, qui assure une biodiversité de plantes autochtones. Et voilà. Donc, pour ce qui suit la prochaine, donc, pour ce qui suit, donc, c'est voilà, des exemples de start-up comme Tunisie Aquaponie, qui donc, installe des systèmes d'aquaponie, assure la formation à la technique d'aquaponie. On a Urban Grid qui conçoit et installe des potagers sur les toits d'immeubles, donc de banques et de compagnies d'assurance. On a Grow It Yourself, qui est une société qui installe des serres pour les cultures en hydroponie. Next. Des exemples du système de distribution. Donc, on a EdiCitNet et l'EdiCitNet. Donc, ce sont 2 initiatives qui assurent un circuit court, donc assurent aussi la visibilité et la promotion de produits de terroirs naturels et bio. Prochaine. Je suis en train de speeder. Donc, la méthodologie de réseautage, d'identification nous a permis, donc, surtout pendant l'atelier de réseautage pendant la crise de la Covid, de dresser un SWOT pour voir l'impact de la crise de la Covid sur l'existence des ECS. Donc, on a pu en dégager quelques forces. Donc, il y a eu un élan de solidarité et de partage pendant cette période. Il y a eu, les gens avaient plus de temps disponible pour s'impliquer dans le jardinage et le travail donc, de production alimentaire. Il y a eu donc l'opportunité de switcher vers un mode de production en consommation responsable. Et aussi un développement de l'e-commerce des produits frais et la disposition de formation en ligne. Les faiblesses de ces ECS pendant la crise Covid, c'était la difficulté d'accès à ces ECS et la difficulté de s'approvisionner, vu que les sociétés de services étaient aussi à l'arrêt. Les menaces, c'était les risques d'arrêt de ces projets après la crise de la Covid, donc après l'enthousiasme et tout ça, et la perte de motivation et le faible compte-tenu du faible intérêt économique et l'absence d'une intégration institutionnelle de ces essences. Donc, la dernière, je pense. Donc, voilà, il a été donc question il est question donc de pouvoir insérer ces ECS dans la dynamique et les stratégies existantes en Tunisie. Donc, à travers EdiCitNet, nous contribuons à
Lamia, le micro, il est fermé.
Donc, à travers EdiCitNet, donc nous comptons contribuer donc à l'insertion des ECS existantes et du Grand Tunis et celles qui vont être orientées, celles qui vont être créées dans la dynamique et la stratégie nationale de l'agriculture urbaine. Des réflexions sont déjà engagées pour intégrer ces ECS dans le système productif du Grand Tunis en tenant compte de leurs spécificités et de leur capacité à résoudre des défis socio-économiques spécifiques donc au Grand Tunis. Voilà, donc j'ai essayé de faire vite parce qu'il me restait peu de temps pour... J'espère que ça a été clair. Merci. Dernière. Voilà.
Thank you very much, Latifa, Lamia, for this presentation. Very rich also, and I think you could have gone on for hours, probably giving us more insights about the greater situation in Tunis. Thanks to all the presentations and presenters and speakers of this session. Now I would like to, as we have 15 minutes left now, please, all participants, go again in the Q&A section, check out the questions. There are already some rated, actually many, and there will definitely be homework for our speakers to answer these in the aftermath, but I think we try to answer some of them here at least. So if we go back about 1.5 hours ago, Doris Damyanovic introduced us to 2 projects done in Vienna, the edible city and the biotope city. Remember this, with the neighborhood managements. Then we went to Oslo with Hilde, discovering Oslo sprouts. So what are the goals and challenges in having such an agenda with the municipality? Then hearing from Sören Bott about the neighborhood management program, well-funded, and how do we integrate these urban agriculture, edible city solutions in there. And then coming to our special case of Carthage, getting an insight on what is done within the EdiCitNet project, but also how this is affecting the wider surrounding. If I look in the Q&A section here, I see a question most rated regarded to Hilde, but I think also others might feel affiliated with this question. So the question is, how do you bridge the gap between working as a municipality to support urban agriculture and working with grassroots communities, groups already practicing urban agriculture? Are there communication difficulties or differences in priorities? So Hilde, I would invite you to start, but also the others. I think that's a point for everybody here.
Yeah, that's a very good question, and fortunately, also it's such a big municipality in a European scale. So we have a lot of departments and agencies who have different roles, and the 3 ones who are working in the environment, urban agriculture team is sort of not having taking decisions that impact people with the property management or building restrictions and so on. So we mainly have a role as advisors and to facilitate within the municipality how we're going to solve the issues that are a task. So the different property managers have routines for how they manage and make agreements with the different stakeholders, and of course the planning and building department agency are maintaining their own legacies. So fortunately we have a sort of independent role here, but I see the question.
Thanks, Hilde, for these insights. So yeah, communication is a key there. So working interdepartment-wise. So other voices on this question, how to work with already existing urban agriculture activities, other experiences. I think Søren, yes, please. Oh, we cannot hear you somehow. Is it only me? Oh, okay. Søren once more. Nope. Okay, while...
Maybe you turned off the microphone, Søren. Your own microphone. Yeah.
This is Nevelina from, it's Marisa from technical support. Thanks for this.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, in Berlin we have the benefit that we have already a program which is well introduced. And therefore, the neighbors of an area decided themselves which program or which project they want to spend. For example, we have over, I think, 30 projects within the last 6 years in 32 neighborhood managements, and they spent around €2 million for urban gardening projects. So it's not the task of the Senate or the administrations themselves or alone, but it's a decision of the people.
Thank you, Søren. Also, again, a different approach how to work with that. I see also in the participants list, there are 2 raised hands. I would invite then Liv Karin Thomason. If you have a question, I know that your hand is already up there very long. Is it right that you would like to speak here? I just allowed you to speak, even so we only see the panelists. Okay, we cannot hear you. Maybe you want to put your question in the chat if it's still valid then. Otherwise, I would go to a question that has been already moved in the Q&A section to answer it, as some were working on this. Ina Säumer from Humboldt University asked the question to basically everybody, that it seems that the most crucial point are long-term strategies and programs in place to really drive the transformation. I'm wondering how this could work in smaller cities or in cities where the staff is regularly fully exchanged after an election if government changes. Are there any insights on that?
I can answer for Oslo's part. I don't think the staff will be exchanged due to elections, but of course the political agenda will change. So as we work in Oslo, we try to make the fundamental work to implement urban agriculture in every department and agency, so that it's not so fragile to this kind of political shifts, starting with mapping and routines and implementing into the daily work that every agency is going to do anyway.
Doris, please.
Yeah, maybe I try for Vienna. I'm not in the administration, but the administration doesn't really change a lot. But I think I agree with Hilde, and I thought it was great to have your own urban farming or urban agriculture strategy. We don't have this in Vienna. You find it in all different strategies, so it's not so easy to grasp everything and to find it. And the big thing now is climate issues, and it's coming, but still it's not this kind of comprehensive one what you have in Oslo, as I got from your presentation. So I thought this was an interesting approach. I think the problem what you have on the maybe on the quarter management level is that people are changing their every 3-4 years. They have a new tendering process who is doing the quarter management, so there will be changes. And I think another strategy is, I think if the people or the on-site people are really interested, that helps the most, I would say. If they really grasp it and get a good group, I think that's the best thing of what they can do. And yeah, so this I think is what we have in Vienna, and I thought it was really interesting. Also to want to thank all the other presentations. They were really interesting, also from Tunis and Qatar.
Yeah, thanks Doris for this answer. Latifa, you want to chip in there?
Yes, oui, je voudrais bien répondre à la question. En fait, jusqu'à aujourd'hui, en Tunisie, je ne pense pas que l'aspect ville comestible ou l'agriculture urbaine soit vraiment dans les programmes politiques. Et donc, je pense que le changement de l'équipe politique ne changera pas beaucoup de choses dans ce cadre-là. Et par contre, ce qui restera toujours, c'est les grands engagements du gouvernement, qui sont par exemple tout ce qui est les Sustainable Development Goals d'une manière générale, ou par exemple tout ce qui est lié les changements climatiques, qui sont des accords qui restent toujours, quel que soit aussi tout ce qui est économie verte, qui est choisi aujourd'hui comme l'un des piliers de développement économique. Et donc, je pense qu'indépendamment de l'équipe politique qui viendra, si on arrive à amarrer le concept de ville comestible à ces grands accords-là, je pense qu'on pourra avoir une disons, durabilité dans l'effort. C'est-à-dire l'effort ne sera pas à un moment donné arrêté et il continuera, espérons.
Thank you, Latifa. Bouba,
Oui, c'est juste pour dire que je suis entièrement d'accord avec Latifa. C'est-à-dire que globalement, les stratégies au niveau national parlent de cette manière de suivre les principes et les objectifs du développement durable, mais je crois également qu'au niveau local, c'est-à-dire ce que nous faisons actuellement à Carthage, avec la collaboration de REACT, etc., pourrait faire tache d'huile. Même si les gouvernements changent, l'important c'est d'agir localement. L'engagement que nous avons enregistré au niveau de certaines localités qui veulent suivre l'exemple de Carthage ailleurs, c'est déjà une bonne note. Mais ce qu'a dit Latif est très correct, parce que nationalement on est déjà engagé, mais localement on commence à faire l'effet de tache d'huile, petit à petit.
Thank you, Bouba. I think this is a great observation, also this alignment between national and global strategies, and that there's commitment. Maybe we can pick up one more questions from the Q&A. There is great interest in the watering bike from Seestadt Aspern, and there has already information been shared on this from Cordula, working also on this. Then Camilla Helgesen asks you, Hilde, again, how much funding is the city budget providing, and what type of costs do these funds cover? Maybe that's a very specific question for you.
Yeah, a very specific and very difficult one to answer, because our team is the budget is mostly salary, and also the subsidy scheme, of course, and we also have specific tasks that have a specific budget once in a while. But as I said, there hasn't been much money except the salaries and the subsidies regime the last year. And the rest are integrated in the different budgets for different agencies, sort of transforming the activity to agricultural activities instead of using them on other activities. In social institutions, making a garden instead of cooking and so forth, and also planting fruit trees instead of ordinary trees. So it's a very hard question, the total amount.
Yeah, and there, I think we cannot cover more today, but I think there are still some great questions in the chat, so we will ask all the speakers today to answer, and maybe there's also tomorrow in this networking session a chance to get more insights. I think the money question links up to what we have been hearing this very early morning from Marie-Claire, that we do not need money to transform. I think if the mindset is right and the hearts and minds are there, but I think a great potential is there if there's alignment with the different policies and strategies in cities. I think this became very clear during these presentations today. I would like to thank the speakers of this session a lot. This has been very intense 2 hours also for our listeners. Thanks for being there and for attending. We will follow up on the unanswered questions and disseminate them in the aftermath of the conference to also keep the chat a bit going, keep the network going. I think there are some interesting clusters that could be formed. Yes, tomorrow, so this is the final comment here now. Tomorrow we have an exciting day as we have first the networking session, which is done also in a very online but a very advanced way. So we meet in wonder.me. It will be put in the chat already. It is also disseminated in the emails you have got so far. So we meet there and you'll be little tiny avatars wandering around a virtual world and finding other people to talk to. So we will really encourage you to maybe already try this this evening or after the session. I think it will be open already now and the technical team will post the link already in the chat right now. Then after this networking session tomorrow, we have an EdiCitNet awards session, as there were awards about the most innovative ECS so far, and we have already seen a tiny spoiler from Buba there, who might have won one of the 3 awards. So be excited about this. And then we have a closing session with Brightland Hove Food Partnership, building the alliances and how to keep the synergies of this conference and networks beyond the event open and to connect further. A lot of people have already put information in the chat how to engage and to connect. And I think as very last thing for today, I would like Johnny Glover to share his artwork and maybe a round of digital applause for all the speakers while we enjoy the artwork there. Yes, thank you very much. Feel free to stay here a bit and check out the graphics from today. Very interesting so far, our journey through the open spaces. Yes. Thanks very much for all the speakers. Have a good evening and see you refreshed tomorrow in the networking session. Bye-bye from my side.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.